Mr. Sunny does the voice of Krillin from Dragon Ball. Maze Hughes from Full Metal Alchemist. Ragnarok is the leader. Usopp from One Piece.
Slow down. This is it's too good of a job.
I'm trying to get people excited.
Savor that.
Illustrator of one of my favorites, if you're old like me, ElfQuest. And also creator and all things God over We Shadows. Amazing.
WeShadows.com.
WeShadows.com. Don't forget to vote.
Yeah.
Vote often. I now hand this over to Mr. Sunny Streets.
Good morning. So yes, I am the voice of Krillin and Ragnarok and Usopp and a million other characters, most of which are not notable enough to mention. I've played Man A million times. Weirdest thing I ever had to play was walking in a hallway of Funimation, which is sometimes dangerous, and one of the directors said, "Hey, come here, I got a part for you." And it was this guy buying soiled panties at the soiled panty store. No, seriously, I didn't know those existed. I later found out they're in vending machines in Japan, so.
Oh, ew.
Well, I didn't say, yeah, they probably smelled. So, do you guys have any questions that run the gambit? I'm a cartoonist. I've been published at DC, at Tokyo Pop. I've been an actor, director, and writer at Funimation. So if you guys have any questions that run the gambit of any of those industries, how to get in, what it's like doing it, who's the smelliest, I'll be happy to answer your questions. So we already have a question from the host.
I was really curious on We Shadows because I think I'm a fan of it, and I was curious to know what the benefits were of going that avenue of doing a web comic versus the traditional published hard copy book.
Well, it was originally published by Tokyo Pop, and they published book 1, and my voice is gone. I was partying. So anyway, it was published by them the first time, and then they published book 2. I mean, they actually paid me to draw book 2, and then, as many of you know, Tokyo Pop went under. So while it was nice to get paid for this, nobody ever saw it. And most people didn't negotiate their contracts very well because Tokyo Pop was able to hold on to the rights of most of the artists that they published. I had a clause in my contract that said if they didn't publish it by a certain date after I turned in the art, then the rights go back to me, which they did in December. So I decided that I would put it online as a webcomic so that more people could see it. Because that was another thing. Tokyo Pop was in its last dying days when they were publishing me, and they didn't promote We Shadows at all. I mean, within 2 months, I had more viewers than Tokyo Pop got for me in 2 years.
Wow.
And we've been up and down. We just fell out of the top 10 webcomics. We're number 11 right now, but we may be back
Get
up.
to work, people.
Yeah.
Get to work.
Every day I'm telling people, vote We Shadows up on my Facebook page. But the benefits of this is having complete control of it. And as I said, I've already got like a lot more viewers. We're getting close to 2 million hits now. And it's just, thank you. And it just came out this year. So I'm very grateful to have those, and especially considering so many of my contemporaries in the field did not get their rights back. Yeah. Do you guys have any other questions? I know it's early, but here's what I'm gonna do. If no one asks a question, what we do is we go one person at a time and make everyone in this room ask a question, starting with her. So, you have saved her life.
Oh, wow, microphone. Hi, I was just wondering, with all the screaming that you've had to do, is there insurance on your voice?
No, that's a good question, and there isn't, and there should be. Especially for like Usopp. Oh my God. Usopp is like Krillin. You know, Krillin's down here, but Usopp has that hitch. I can't do that more than like 3 hours at a stretch. But yeah, I wonder where you can get vocal insurance. Somebody should start a business with voice actors, because I would certainly invest.
No, there's an idea.
William Morris.
Yeah.
William Morris? Okay. Yeah, but you might have to be union though. Thing is about it, in Texas, it's a right to work state, meaning that if you're a union, it's probably not to your benefit to be a union actor. You won't get as much work. So yeah, that's the problem with that. You had a question, sir? Right here in the green. Back there.
Oh, hi. Oh, your shirt's cute. Pumbaa.
Yeah, I read that you had done some voice acting for one of my favorite video games, Explosion Man.
Yeah, I did a little work on that.
Yeah,
I played Explosion Man.
I know. I was wondering, did they let you like ad-lib all the lines of Explosion Man, or did they have it written down what they wanted you to say, or what?
Pretty much, they just wrote emotions down because he doesn't really speak, you know. He said, just express yourself here, and you know, like just the weirdest running noises you can make, like, whatever I wanted to do in there, and yeah, they just let me go. Yeah, that was fun. It was the most manic, Bugs Bunny-ish type character I ever got to do, and you know, I come from the Mel Blanc school. That's the characters I always wanted to do. So when they cast me as Explosion Man, I was just blown away that I could just get in that booth and go mad. Any other questions about Madness? Yes?
Yes, actually kind of a two-part question. Have you been able to meet your team four-star counterpart, and have you met your counterpart of any of your characters in any language?
I have met the Team 4-star guys. I'm not sure if I ran into Krillin. I might have. I was at a party of theirs in Detroit and ended up spanking them.
What?
Yeah, they lined up for spankings with a paddle. It was awesome. It's a good party. That's a good show. It's funny. I think that it should go further, though. I mean, if anything is open to parody, it's Dragon Ball Z. If you heard our outtakes, you'd realize how tame 4-star is. I say, and I've said this at every panel, I think that what they should have do is like a whole episode where you see nothing but bathroom stalls, and then you see the legs of the Z Fighters under the stalls, and then behind the stalls you hear, ah! You know, just continually for 30 minutes, right? And then flushing. And for me, that would be episode 1, and then move on from there. It would just get worse.
I fully support this.
Yes. Unfortunately, my contract does not allow that, but anyone wants to do it, they can do it.
Everyone to the internet!
You have a question.
I know my mom isn't here, but she liked you for being Krillin. Could you just do an example of Krillin's voice?
What's her name?
Her name is Mary.
Hey Mary, it's Krillin. Where the hell are you? Hurry up.
Thank you. So early for Krillin. Usually, you know, my voice changes throughout the day. It gets higher, and in the morning it's very low. And you guys know I play Kyuzo on Samurai 7, right?
Yeah.
When I got cast as that, it was kind of a surprise to me because I don't usually get characters like that. And I told the director, you have to make sure that all of our sessions are early in the morning. And he said, okay, fine. So that's how we did that series. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes. There. Yeah, you can answer.
Just putting it in my face. So, you are a Renaissance man, multi-talented. What do you personally take the most joy from? Like, I love voice acting, and I felt really fulfilled. Or, you know, I just want to sit down and draw, or I want to create another way. You do so much, or is it all kind of even and like you just love doing whatever you're doing that day?
Well, first of all, thank you. I don't consider myself a Renaissance man because I don't know math. Math is my kryptonite. I do like the arts, though. Anything in the freestyle dance, whatever. I like any kind of art. If I see people doing art, I want to be part of it. And I do flow. I think that everyone who is good at one art is more than likely good at other arts. I mean, you guys are talented people. You probably have other talents as well. And I think that art is art, no matter what you're doing. And it's just a matter of what kind of way you want to express it, you know, whether you want to do it with pencils or with a guitar or whatever. Everyone at Funimation is really good at other things. Mostly musicians. We got tons of musicians. But yeah, for me, it's just, I really love drawing, and I really love acting. And I started a band because a friend of mine had a band, and I was like, oh, I want to try that. So, what the hell? So you guys go to YouTube and put Sunny Strait White Girl. You would get some porn I did, and no, you also you would get my band White Girl. You guys seen Black Butler?
Yeah.
Okay, I played Drossel on that, and you know, the creepy little puppet guy who sings "London Bridge is falling down." You know that one? Mm-hmm. So my band did our own version of London Down. London Down. London. Oh, it's too early. Wake up. I need some coffee. London Bridge, which is falling down, and so you can check it out on YouTube. Our band played at UkasaCon a few weeks ago. Went really well. Yeah, I'm playing another show in Consplosion in a couple of weeks. So, and my wife's burlesque troupe is coming too, so we're bringing the band and a burlesque troupe in a bus. It's going to be fun. Any other questions? Yes, up front here.
So, as someone who draws a webcomic, what do you do to more or less keep your skills sharp and practice?
The best way to keep your skills sharp is to draw. There was a cartoonist named Dave Sim. Well, there still is. He did a book called Cerebus. He's a Canadian artist. And I met him at a convention 25 years ago, I think, when I was just starting out. And he said that all of us cartoonists have 200 horrible pages in our system. Get them out of your system as soon as possible. And for me, that was a very freeing statement because, you know, the scariest thing, at least for me, was the blank page and spending hours on something that's going to look like crap. But when he said that, I realized, okay, that's your job for 200 pages, is to spend hours and hours and hours on these pages that are going to look like crap. And I was published by the time I reached page 50. It was a small publisher, but I think they paid me $3 a page. But at the same time, it was good. They paid me $100 to do the cover. And as I got closer to that 200 page mark, my publishers kept getting bigger and bigger. And I'm currently around 2,000 pages, but I'm still not happy with it, you know. And I think if I'm happy with it, I'll have to stop. So yeah, you just, and comics will teach you more about art than anything. I mean, I think that it should be required for any art major to at least do a small, it doesn't have to be a graphic novel, but, you know, a small comic book, maybe 30 pages, because it will teach them so much about design, composition. If you're thinking about drawing a page, like, okay, let's say we're doing a comic about a guy he's hungover and he's doing an interview with a bunch of people in a room. So panel one, how would you express that, you know? Should you do it from behind this woman, this lovely lady with the camera here, you know, shining up on the guy here? Should it be from the point of view of the guy giving the speech to the audience, you know, so you see the audience out there? Should it be a bird's eye view or worm's eye view? You know, these are your questions that you have to ask, and this is still panel one. And then you have to figure out how to draw that. So that's an art lesson in itself. By the time you finish like 5 or 6 panel page, you've learned a lot. And I noticed when I started drawing, I started this book, a friend of mine, this guy in Denton, Texas. When I first moved out there to go to school, I was majoring in theater, and he drew this comic book called The Sex Gophers from Hell. And it was hilarious. It was about a rock band called the Sex Gophers. It was drawn terribly though. But I drew a picture of what I thought would be a cool cover, and I gave it to him, and he says, "Oh, dude, just draw the book." So I thought, I've never drawn a comic book, so I thought I'd give it a shot. So I drew this terrible 10-page comic book, but everybody liked it, you know, because it was just so weird. But I noticed from page 1 to page 10, there was light years of improvement. And then I did another 10-page comic, and from page 11 to 20, it was even that much better. You know, so then I was like, okay, this is good. I'm going to stick with this. And so yeah, I think that comics is probably one of the best teachers of drawing. So and your question was, how do you keep yourself sharp? You just keep drawing. keep making discoveries, and push yourself. Do anything that seems hard. That's what you need to focus on. Not avoid it. Like, oh, hands are so hard. I'm gonna draw it like this. Don't do that. If it's hard for you, then draw it. There should be no not drawing something because it's difficult. Any other questions?
It's a small room, right? You don't need.
Do what?
Do you need?
I don't. If you want to. Some of these people are shyer than others, but
You've done so many voices. So have you ever been doing a voice and gone into another character, and how do you try to keep the characters separated?
That's a good question. We used to have and sometimes we still do. We'll have a line that a pull quote that we've done of the character, so that we can pull it up and reference it and hear it again to stay. But there's two schools of thoughts on that. I think that it's better to let a character develop organically over time. And like you guys seen The Simpsons, right? And Homer, I saw an interview with the guy who plays Homer, and he was talking about how he started out. Homer was very Walter Matthau. It's, oh boy, come here. It's all in this level right here, right? And then, and that was like in the first season. And he said he did an episode where Homer was crying, and then all of a sudden, while he was crying, he said, I kind of like the way he talks like that, while he's crying. And so he changed the way he speaks normally. And this is just some discovery he made in the process. So, and human beings grow. My voice is not what it was, 10 years ago. And no one else in this room has the same voice as 10 years ago. So you might as well develop it naturally. I sometimes get stuck in the voice though. Like with Lupin III, he talks very smarmy. He stays up this way for a long time. And my wife can always tell when I've been recording Lupin when I get home. She's like, Lupin? Huh? Oh yeah, where is my voice? And sometimes I'll laugh. And I was laughing one time and Krillin came out, it was like, because Krillin laughs like, and I was laughing as I was, did I always do that? And I was like, I'm really freaked out now because I'm like, has Krillin affected my laugh or did I always do that? And then I was at my dad's house and I got him laughing about something and he went, and I went, oh, that's where I got it. That's okay then. Did I answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? There's some at the back there. Yeah. What do you have, sir?
Are you still doing things with Chin's Mojo and everything you called
Chin's Mojo. I didn't write any of the songs for Chin's Mojo. That was a band that my friend Tom started. And I got into the band in a very weird way. I did a proposal for a comic book company and a very major product, and I'm not allowed to announce what it is. But when they wanted me to write it, they wanted me to draw it. It was a Go project, and when they gave me the contract, it was going to be like less than minimum wage to draw this comic book, and I have a family to support, so I had to turn it down. But I offered they could buy all my ideas, and I was like, for $500, you can have all my ideas that I sent in. And they said, no, we'll just go in a different direction. Well, a year later, the book comes out, and they've stolen all of my ideas. Yeah. And it was somebody at Funimation told me about it because I was, real excited about the project a year before that. So after some going back and forth, I finally proved to their lawyer that they did steal it because the artist who drew it showed me the JPEGs that the editor sent that were my files. And so they said, we're not saying we did anything wrong, but what do you want? And I said I want twice as much as I asked for to begin with, and I want my name in the book. And so they did that. But, so here, thank you. I tell that story to tell this one. So suddenly I had this extra money for defeating the forces of evil, and my buddy Tom said, you need to buy a Yamaha M06 keyboard, and then you can be in the band. And I was like, okay, why not? So, how often do you defeat the forces of evil? So I bought this badass keyboard and started playing in Chin's Mojo. Problem is that Tom lives an hour away from me, so it just became too much. But I started writing songs on this keyboard. And one of the songs I wrote, a fellow Funimation employee, Neil Malley, who's an engineer. All right, cool. Yeah. He's also a badass keyboard player. He took the song I wrote and made it into a techno song. It was completely electronic. And I went, oh wow, this is cool. And so I said, why don't we just form a band, me, my wife, and you, and we'll just do everything electronically. So this is how White Girl, the current form of White Girl, came about. Now we had White Girl before, but it was a punk rock band, and it was awesome. But this band is much more. It's sort of like industrial pop, is what we call it. We call it high noon industrial. But anyway, the question about Chin's Mojo, not in it anymore. But that's a long story, obviously. Any other questions? Yes, in the back there.
Were you excited whenever they brought Konami back?
I was excited because I think it's good for the industry. Toonami is really good at pushing anime, and that's what we need to keep this business going. As for Toonami Tom, I only did it the first season, so I wasn't excited about that because I don't get the money. But Steve Bloom has been doing a really good job of that for many years. It was really weird too because it wasn't like a problem I had with the directors or they had with me or you know getting drunk on the set or something like that. I was recording in Dallas and they were in Atlanta, and at the time I was recording, they had a digital patch system to let the director, talk to me through, but the internet was still kind of in its infancy about what it was capable of doing. So it became a very big hassle, technically, to get this set up every time to record. Today it would be easy, but back then they couldn't do it. So they said, well, we're gonna have to change it. We're gonna get a guy who's local, but we're gonna do it really cool. We're gonna have a movie in which Toonami Tom dies to give him the send-off, and then we'll have a new Toonami Tom. And so that's how that came about. And it was really cool though, and they were really cool about it. But what was really strange is that when Steve Bloom took over, he was trying his best to do his best sunny, straight Toonami Tom voice. And Toonami Tom is not much different than my own voice, so it was very strange when I first heard it, because I thought I had recorded it. Are they using my voice to ease into him or something? What is this? And then I realized, no, that's him. That's a good impression. Someone is imitating me. That's a very odd feeling. So yes, I am excited for Toonami coming back. Thank God. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What advice do you have for somebody wanting to get into voice acting?
Get your CPA. Or get your business degree, something that will actually serve you. Now, actually, if you want to be, how many people want to be voice actors? Anyone in here want to be a voice actor? Okay. I will say the best advice I ever heard is from Eric Vale, voice of Trunks and many other characters you're familiar with. We were at a convention and there were about 15 voice actors on this panel, and every time I tell this story it gets larger. I think there's probably 8. So let's say 8. There are 8 voice actors on this panel. And he said, how many of you voice actors set out to be voice actors? None of us raised our hands. These are well-known voice actors in the industry. And then he said, how many set out to be actors? And all of us raised our hands. So his point was that if you want to be a voice actor, learn the craft of acting, because you have no idea what life is going to give you. But as an actor, your job primarily is auditioning for anything you can get. If it's on camera, if it's stage work or whatever, you're just happy to be working. So get all of those skills down, because if you set out to be in such a narrow field as voice acting, you probably aren't going to survive as an actor. And also, if you don't have the love of the craft of acting, you probably shouldn't do it anyway, because that's the key element there. Actors are acting, right? Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you prefer the voices where, like Tom, where it's more of your natural voice, or a drastic change from your natural voice?
I like doing the natural voices just because it's easier on your throat. Chris Sabat calls those coffee drinking rolls. You just come in and now it's time, you know, whatever. And those are great, but I prefer the cartoony stuff. I like, I mean, Mel Blanc was my hero as a kid, you know, Bugs Bunny, Porky Pig, Daffy Duck, all those guys. So that's what I wanted to do. So anytime I get a chance, even like with Usopp, which really kills my voice, but it's still like one of my favorite characters to do. Any other questions?
If you had a favorite, which one it would be?
If I had to pick one, it's going to have to be Krillin. Because Krillin was the first one I did, and he and I kind of grew up together, you know? And I got to develop as an actor with him because he has such a long run, you know? And he was also my first, so yeah, you're always going to remember your first. She's remembering her first right now. Wow, that's so sweet. Yeah.
Hey, kind of a two-part question. Have you seen the original Seven Samurai by?
No, I haven't seen it. I should have seen it.
Okay.
But Kyuzo has so few lines. I generally do a lot of research for characters that I do, and I would have, you know, at a bigger part. Like Krillin, I read all the manga. You know, as soon as I knew there was manga, I started reading it. And then the same with One Piece. I'm way ahead in the manga of One Piece. I think as an anime voice actor, we're very lucky because research is easy, you know, especially for these. Well, thank you, welcome. You just go get the manga and start reading, and you can find out a lot about this character. But I also, you know, when I come from a theater background, and what I like to do with characters is write a history of them and fill in the gaps that are not in the script. And I think it gives a nice subtext that's, you know, it may not even be noticeable by the audience, but I believe it is because I think it gives a more believable performance. So even with like Krillin, which we've seen him since he was a little kid, right? I've written some history on Krillin. Because Krillin, okay, we know that he's a monk, you know, and probably like a Shaolin monk or whatever their universe's, you know, version of that is. But we don't know how he became a monk and why he became a monk at such a young age. Here's what happened. Popeye the Sailor Man was sailing around an Asian coastline and he knocks up this beautiful village girl. He leaves, he has no idea, he just takes off, you know. And she, in her shame, takes this baby and deposits him at the Shaolin monk temple and runs away. And so they take him in and raise him. So that fills in the gaps, right? But here's the thing. I believe that if Krillin would just eat some damn spinach, he could go Super Saiyan even though he's from this planet. Thank you. And actually, Popeye is my favorite character of any genre or medium. And that's why I infused it with that. When I first got casted in, we had to sound like Ocean Group's version, which was, this was 14 years ago. A lot of you probably don't even remember it. But the original Krillin sounded like this. His voice was in this area, right? And I got cast because I could mock him. And the first week I was recording, Barry Watson was the director at the time. Now we record in Texas, so sometimes our directors talk like this. And he said, you know, that sounds just like Terry Clausen, but I hate that voice. I was like, well, what do you want me to do? And he goes, well, Krillin's a midget, but he's the world's strongest human being. And I was like, so you want like a tough midget? He goes, yeah. And I said, what about Popeye on helium? And he's like, what would that sound like? And I went,
I don't know, come on guys, let's go!
He went, oh yeah, use that. So, I got to do Popeye. So, he's a little higher than Popeye, but in GT, he gets older. And as he gets older, it's Popeye. It's just pure Popeye. Except for the laugh.
Slow me down, Goku. Do we have any other questions?
Yes, sir. You in the back with the glasses. Yes. Do an impression of what?
Okay, what do you want me to say, man? Hi, good morning. Goku, where are you?
How's that?
Thank you.
Yes.
With all the voice acting that you do you find in just natural or everyday life sometimes falling into the different, just a casual conversation, changing your voices up just because of the work that you do?
Yeah, I do that all the time. I would do that if I didn't do this. But yeah, my dogs all have their own voice, And there's a little show. My wife goes to bed way before I do, so I tuck her in, and all the dogs